Township Board of Trustees meeting for Monday, August the 10th. If you'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone. We'll open up for public comment. If you're here to make a comment on any issue on the agenda or the township, you're welcome to come up to the microphone. And we ask you to keep it to 3 minutes. If you could introduce yourself and your address, we'd appreciate it as well. Not seeing anyone for public comment, I'll close public comment and move to item 2, consider consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Support? All
I
in
would
fa-
like to remove 2 items.
Sure.
Item
Been a
A
little faster
and
on the draw.
Item D.
Which ones, Mark?
Item A and D.
A and B,
D
okay.
is in dog.
Oh, okay, A and D, okay. Got it, okay. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes which are left with B and C?
Motion to approve the consent agenda for B
Just
and C.
second, just second,
Just
sorry,
so clear,
Chris.
sorry. Which two are off?
A and D,
A and D.
yep, A and D, okay, right?
So I would like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items B and C.
Thank you.
Motion by Chris, is there support?
Support.
Support from Val, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. And so, Mark, we'll move those to the end after item number 4, okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Item number 3, public hearing, site plan and special land use request for the Birmingham Country Club, 1750 Saxon Drive. Tom, welcome.
Good evening, Board. Before you today is the Birmingham Country Club located at 1750 Saxon Drive. This property is located in our R3 Single Family District and is surrounded by residential properties. Okay. Because the country club is in a non-single family property in a residential district, it is considered to be a special land use. Any modifications would require review and approval by the Design Review Board, Planning Commission, and the Board of Trustees. For this project, the site plan and special land use proposal concerns a kitchen and snack bar addition, along with the renovation of their outdoor terrace. The proposed improvements are located within the interior of the property and are several hundred yards away from the nearest residential home. Concerning the kitchen addition, it's going to be a 1,000 square foot modernized kitchen that is proposed on the southerly portion of the clubhouse where the loading dock is currently located. And the objective of this modern kitchen is to better accommodate club operations. Secondly, the snack bar will be 312 square feet. It'll be located here. And it is proposed in the northerly portion of the clubhouse to provide additional space for patrons. And then for this area, we are looking at a proposed terrace renovation to better accommodate events during peak hours and then there will be some rearrangements of the golf cart drives when it comes to these events that are occurring. For example, this path here, when there's a large event, they're going to use decorative pavements to expand where the guests could be. And then north of this structure here is going to be an alternate pathway for golf carts that they'll be able to access it during such events. We have some close-ups of the proposed kitchen area and the snack bar addition, as well as a partial floor plan. And then when it comes to the terrace renovation, there will be some existing walls that will be replaced with decorative metal fencing that'll be under 4 feet tall, 3.3 feet to be exact. And then there will be some brick piers. And because they're also incorporated on a patio and they're lower than 4 feet high, there are no variances associated with this request. 4 existing trees will be removed and replaced. A total of 69 DBH replacement inches is required, and the applicant is proposing 72 caliber inches of replacement trees. Here we have some site photos of what the current site looks like. And this is a rendering of the terrace addition. This proposal was reviewed by township departments such as engineering, fire, police, and DPW, and all have recommended approval following the review of the site plans. Dual Landscape Architecture also reviewed the landscape plan and concluded that it meets the intent of the zoning ordinance. And when it comes to review of the township's boards and commissions, on July 15th, the Design Review Board recommended approval and forwarded it to the Planning Commission. On July 20th, the Planning Commission gave a positive recommendation and forwarded it to the Board of Trustees. And here is the recommendation for the board tonight. In summary, I'll note that the kitchen and snack bar additions provide additional indoor space, along with improvements to the terrace, and will help the country club meet current demands such as mobile ordering. The existing kitchen and ventilation systems are approximately 30 years old and are in due for modernization. The improvements do not increase the capacity for events. The clubhouse is already an active space. And lastly, the additions are not expected to significantly increase the overall traffic, and the existing circulation and parking will continue to serve the club. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions?
No question, just a comment similar to the one I had at the Planning Commission. I think they did a beautiful job in updating the kitchen, and the outdoor area is beautiful, and it does not impact the neighbors at all. So I think it's a great project and certainly enhances the club.
I agree.
I would like to make a motion that we approve.
Support.
Motion
Oh,
by,
do we have to open up a public hearing?
okay, yeah.
Sorry.
So I'll open up, no worries. I'll open up for a public hearing. And if you're here to comment on the site plan by the Birmingham Country Club, you're welcome to come up to the microphone on my right, your left, and ask you to keep it to 3 minutes and introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Ann North. I'm the resident in the Bloomfield Township at 1625 North Lawn Boulevard. I'm directly next to the maintenance shed of the country club. I think you all have done a beautiful job, and I've spent 30 years in food and beverage. I certainly applaud this situation. I only have one issue, and it's really easily solved if the country club's willing to work with me and listen and be neighborly. It's mainly involved in the sound, and I'll tell you why. This in July, I was sitting on my front porch, and with my son, and he said, "Mom, what's that noise?" And I said, "Well," he goes, "It sounds like it's a high school." And I said, "No, it's the country club." And the way the sound travels, it travels straight across as well as down and up the ravine that I sit at the top of, and it magnifies. And so I took a little walk down the street last week and listened to the noise at various levels of people down the street. Across the street is all Birmingham. I'm one of 2 residences on the other side. And so the existing noise that comes across from swim meets and golf tournaments and lovely events, the sound is audible. I can hear every single word that's sung. Not a problem. I love having that, but at the same time, it doesn't sit in an isolated situation. We have generators and possible pickleball courts, and the lighting is also an issue. So my request that the township, or that the Birmingham Country Club would be to come and sit with me, come in my house if you want, look at the lights that come across, that shine into my bedroom and into my master living room area, as well as direct some of the sound back at the country club so it all doesn't come across to me. It's not really a big issue, but the existing noise burden is quite high anyway. When you have air compressors and vehicles starting up on Sunday at 6:08 in the morning, it's just, these things don't sit in isolation to each other, and I'm feeling a little bit like a punching bag. It's not a problem. I chose to purchase a house right next to the maintenance shed, but during that time, there's been a complete landscape renovation for the maintenance shed, and the lights do shine up into my house. And so it's just a lot of things that I'd love to meet with the country club on, in addition to the generator, which doesn't seem to be a problem. But after the situation is put up, I'm a little bit a victim of not being able to solve a problem. So if we could talk about it in advance, I'm all in. I've tried to stay within 3 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Ann.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I don't see anybody else for public hearing, so I'll close the public hearing and turn it back to the board for any comments or.
Well, I have a comment or a question. I know there was discussion about increasing the number of pickleball courts, and then there was discussion of fencing and the sound, and the people on the other side of Saxon hear it quite intensely. And have we ever resolved that? Is that still pending? It's like,
Yeah, that proposal's still pending, and the planning division received an email from Tim Gardella of the country club, and they are working on improving their sound plan when it comes to the pickleball courts.
so, I feel for the resident, things have changed a lot, and it's a beautiful country club. I don't object to that at all. But when noises and lights and then an increase in the pickleball, I think we need to look at the whole picture and do something for the residents.
Well, the only thing that certainly is, can be corrected immediately would be the lights, because lights is something that, and I know Andrea is already working on that, I could see, because lights, it cannot go over and interfere with the residential property, so that I'm sure can be corrected. As far as pickleball, that's an ongoing process, and they're working on that, so I think that's premature. So wait until we see the results, because they are putting a lot of money into that.
And I know we have some representatives from Birmingham Country Club. If you'd like to come up and make any comment, you're welcome.
Well, from what Ann just said, I mean, she's already got issues, and, no, please come up. She's explained her issues currently, and then before we approve a plan to expand greater use and more facilities, sort of seems like they should maybe be considered more together than, like, the pickleball's here and the lighting and.
Well, actually,
add-on to
we're
the kitchen.
we're actually just talking about the change in the kitchen.
Right,
And it's really set far away from where Mrs. North is.
right.
But those other issues, maybe you want to,
I can certainly give you an update on that. You already had the update.
introduce yourself, please.
I'm Tim McCafferty. I'm on the Facilities Committee at Birmingham Country Club.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Yeah, no problem. So right now, we are working on the pickleball program. We're working with a vendor that does specialty walls for sound, because pickleball has been an issue with sound. And so these guys have developed these sound walls that really cut the levels that we had shown before. I want to say it's like another 20 or 30%. And the numbers that we had presented before were already below the sound threshold. I will say that this person was talking about her residence on North Lawn. The pickleball is planned all the way over on Saxon, so it's the exact opposite end of the grounds. So I don't know that the two really would play together there, but anyhow.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Mike, if I,
Sure, Chris.
so since I have you, so she brought up a couple points that while we're not talking about it today, are you willing to work with her and find ways to mitigate some of those improvements that the maintenance shed is causing on her property, including light, and if there's any ways you guys can do sound?
So we've been doing that continuously through the whole process. The maintenance shed work was done probably 6 years ago, And probably the only thing that occurred in the last year is DTE came through along North Lawn and took down all the trees that were along that edge of the property, I guess for maintenance for their high voltage lines. So we came back in after them and have replanted most of that hill that is, so North Lawn's kind of up and the maintenance sheds are all down. So those plantings were probably shielding a lot of that light. We've since, like I said, have gone back in with new plantings, but they're gonna take a little bit to grow to shield that light again.
Okay, so will you be able to meet with the resident and try to find ways to mitigate it in the interim? Because I don't want to wait 3 years.
She's always welcome to come over to the club and meet with our manager.
And will you be able to go over and see her issues on her property so that we can try to mitigate it on her side as well?
I'm sure Tim would do that.
Perfect.
Because it seems like in general, the township wants downward light, so downward light shouldn't really go across North Lawn to her property. And the same thing with the sound, if you're gonna mitigate some of the sound with pickleball, possibly there's something that could go up by the maintenance building to help the residents.
Yeah, I really don't know how that would be. I'm not saying that we wouldn't do something, but we really have already done something. We had a full wall of plantings there. It was all green, and DTE took it all down. So we've replanted. It just takes time for that stuff to grow back. That's the best sound barrier and light barrier you can get.
Well, it could take years, is my concern.
Well, we certainly understand that. I can't make them grow faster. We could maybe put in a few more. But we can take a look at that.
Perfect.
I think there was one other question, which was sound coming from the patio across the course. Have you guys looked at that, or is that a?
That's never been an issue for us. I'm not aware of any particular complaint until I heard that just now. And it's not been an issue that I'm aware of.
Well, you're aware of it now, so that's kind of where we're at.
I understand.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Anything else?
Yep.
Sean,
problem.
can you put the aerial view? I wanted to know where exactly the maintenance sheds were located.
That's a good question.
The maintenance shack is back towards North Lawn, correct? You come in off of North Lawn to get to your maintenance shack,
Yes.
right?
Yep, that's
And about
correct.
how many feet would you say it is off of, or yards off of, 100 yards off of North Lawn?
Probably not even. It's pretty tight to North Lawn.
Right.
It's
And
kind of tucked right up against it. Remember, at that point, it's really tough to pick it up on that aerial.
Right.
But North Lawn is above the maintenance building, so you're driving down a hill to get down to the maintenance area. And then there's a few homes that are just past it, and they're all up above what is
So
the maintenance
sound
area.
goes up.
So the sound probably does come up. And they're, just like, similar to what you've probably seen down Maple for Oakland Hills now that they've built their buildings all out along Maple. They're all steel and concrete buildings.
So, but like good neighbors, you said you're gonna try to work with her, try to figure out a way to mitigate some of those issues.
Sure.
Which is great. It's what she's looking for and what we're looking for.
Yeah.
So I would like to make a motion
Okay.
that we approve what's in the packet.
Support.
Motion by Chris, support by Neil. All in favor, say aye.
I would-
Oh, sorry.
I would like to add to Chris's motion, if he's allowing, that some of the issues with sound and light, I know it's separate from this, but to get it on record, can we?
Well,
I
the
don't know if
problem,
we
it's
can.
really
Yeah, that'd be a
It's a
separate
separate
issue.
issue? All right.
So we'll just take the motion as been
As
presented
presented.
and
And
supported.
Andrea's aware, and she's already,
Yeah.
she's
Okay.
going to work on it.
So we'll take the motion as presented by Chris and supported by Neil. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Thank you. Good luck,
Thank
gentlemen.
you. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea.
Item number 4, consider placing a millage on the November ballot dedicated to repay bonds for township public services or public safety building. So we'll start with Michael. Michael?
Okay. So we've been now for the last several meetings talking about this, and really, we've been talking about it for a while. Can you go to the next slide? Can you put it in presentation mode? It's the little easel down at the lower right. Right above that. Right there. Oh, that one. Okay, thank you. So I thought it would be instructive to look at the history of this project and center on where we've been and provide a background for what we're talking about. So in September 2023, based on the requests of the police department and the fire department, the township hired Redstone Architects, which is a known architectural firm that specializes in public safety facilities, to conduct a space needs assessment. And the analysis was Fire Station number 3, which is the location on Maple Road, and this building, the Township Hall Police Department building. And that process went through working with the departments and the various department heads here in the administration to come up with where we're at and what we feel we need. In 2024, we went through an extensive strategic plan process that lasted most of the year and ended up with the 2025 strategic plan. In January of 2025, Redstone presented their findings to the board. The recommendation was 3 new buildings, a fire station number 3, either in its current location or in a location nearby, a new police department building, and a new town hall administration building. Following that and, internal discussions, the board hired the Smith Group, which is another architectural firm, to provide campus design ideas and concepts so that we could look at everything holistically. And we worked with Smith Group through the end of 2025 and into early 2026. They looked at the whole campus for redesign, including the 48th District Court. Ultimately, we went back to Redstone and had them conduct a space needs assessment for the court. And based on that result, it was determined that the court needed more space. They say they need more space than they already have, but it just felt like it was not something that we could combine with any other building. So the decision was made to leave the court where it stands in its current form. We received cost estimates for different building configurations, and the project considered the findings of the 2025 strategic plan, 3 of which of the pillars of the strategic plan were reliable infrastructure, enhancing the community character with green space, and best-in-class government. On the next slide, please. On the next slide, this is the proposal that I've been presenting over the last few meetings and that we've been discussing for a long time throughout this process, to replace this one building, Township Hall Police Building, which is what, it's roughly half and half. Police is probably 55 to 60%. But to replace that with one new building to the south, in the current parking lot between Township Hall and 48th District Court. We would move the Communications and Community Affairs Department into this new building from their current building. This is the department formerly known as the Cable Department. And so we would convert that cable building into the animal shelter, and the old animal shelter would be taken down to make room for parking for the new building, and this building would be taken down as well, and we would have the ability to build a park or green space, some kind of green space on our township campus. So the business case, I think that, supports this proposal. It simplifies operations by remaining in just one building. It's a more efficient use of space, eliminates any excess space in the town hall building. Modern construction will lower ongoing operating costs. It provides much requested and a first-ever township park or green space. There's definite synergies of having the township administration, the police, and the emergency operations center together. And it eliminates the unknown costs of maintaining this building, which is a 90-year-old building that is really 3 buildings in one. The original building was built in the late 1930s. There was a addition put on in the 1960s, and then there was a third edition, or a second edition, I guess, put on in the early 1990s. And so really it's, the way it's built, it's 3 separate buildings that all connect together. So there are 3 different mechanical systems, HVAC, plumbing, all of that, that comprises this one building. On the next slide, please. These are the financial projections, assuming a building footprint of 210 feet by 125 feet. The cost of the new building would be about $74 million. You add in the demo for the 2 buildings, the animal shelter in this building, some site work. You add in the cost of the fire station. We did receive a state grant for $1.5 million towards the fire station. And then you throw in some funds to convert the cable into the animal shelter. I think that's a pretty conservative number. We have our capital reserve, which is what we've been funding for this kind of project over the last 6 years, 7 years. And the net project costs would be about $58.9 million, and with bond issuance costs, it comes out to a round number of about $60 million. The first year debt service, assuming a 2 series bond issuance, would be 0.235 mils, which on the average taxable value home of $260,000 is about $104. On the next slide, this is just some early concepts. So originally we had talked about potentially building a park or green space area at the corner of Telegraph and Exeter. We thought about it and said, proposed this as an alternative so that the park wouldn't be next to Telegraph Road. We could take over that parking lot and then convert the slanted shaded areas to parking. And that would provide all of the parking that we would need. And so it is a pretty good size green space area that we could build out the first for the township. On the next slide, please. So the timeline, assuming that the millage is approved in November next year, early next year, we would issue an RFP for a construction manager and an architect. Late 27, early 28, we'd issue the first series of bonds. Construction would begin. The first levy of the bond millage would be in winter 2028, so that's 2 years from now. We'd issue the second series of bonds either in late 28 or early 29, and the first full levy of the bond millage would be in the winter tax of 2029, and right around then is when the construction would be complete. So on the last slide, just the summary of the proposal. It's a comprehensive solution. It efficiently utilizes space and simplifies operations in one building instead of 2. I already went over the bond specifics. It eliminates any unknown maintenance or repair liability of a 90-year-old building. With the 3 different mechanical systems, we have no idea what kind of issues could come up over the next 10, 20 years. With this kind of building, we'd have to set aside a large amount of money to be able to fund that. The existing town hall, once the police moves out, would only be about 60% utilized. By removing the current town hall building, we would be able to put in that park, either at the corner or in the other parking lot. The millage difference would be about 86 cents in the first year and about $20 for the average taxpayer per year between the 2 proposals. I think this follows the strategic plan that we spent a lot of time and effort working on, calling for upgrades in infrastructure and providing much-needed green space. And I'll add that the administration has a demonstrated track record of watching costs and returning surplus funds to taxpayers. That's not just from the road projects that we've done in Bloomfield Village, for example, where we've returned a significant amount of money to taxpayers, but we also refunded or refinanced the last series of bonds that will be a direct savings to taxpayers of over $500,000. And so I think that we've demonstrated that we are very keenly watching costs and doing what's in the best interest of the taxpayers and what's in the best interest of the township as a whole for the future. So that's my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael?
Yes, I do. An average of $20 per taxpayer per year, that's $300,000 a year. 15,000 ratepayers, let's say.
No, this is not ratepayers. This is, so the average taxable value in the township for a property owner is $260,000. That's the average taxable value. You multiply that by the 0.08 mils, that would be the difference between the two proposals, and that comes out to about $20 a year for the average taxpayer.
So if we have 15,000 taxpayers in the township at $20 per, it's $300,000 per year.
We have 16,000 or so taxpayers, but everybody has a different taxable value. So everyone pays, this is,
It says, I'm trying to get out how much money is it raising per year? It says $20.
okay, you're trying to figure out how much money this will raise per year?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I have those numbers. Somewhere here. Give me 1 second. So remember, we're talking about taxable values. We're not talking about ratepayers or anything having to do with water and sewer. We're talking about taxpayers. And taxpayers have different taxable values based on the values of their property and whether or not they've been capped, et cetera. So the average tax, if you look at all of the taxable values for all of the parcels in the township, the average taxpayer has a value of $260,000. That's their taxable value. And you would multiply that taxable value by the number of mills that they get levied, and that calculates their annual property tax. So I'm suggesting that the difference between the two proposals under consideration tonight is 0.08 mils. That's the difference between the two. And so the difference between the two is roughly $20 per year for the average taxpayer. Does that make sense?
But that doesn't tell me how much you're collecting per year.
Okay, that's a different question. The collection would be, once the bonds are fully levied, the collection would be a little under $3 million.
The township currently charges rent to water and sewer, even though we have a debt millage on the campus. What is going to be the rental income charge to public safety for this new facility?
We don't charge rent to public safety because it's a governmental fund. We've never charged rent to public safety.
So, but we are charging rent to water and sewer.
Water and sewer is an enterprise fund. It's a little bit different. These are governmental funds, so we don't charge rent to the roads department. We don't charge rent to the senior center. We don't charge rent to the cable department.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, here it says, set aside taxpayer funds. But in last week's meeting, we talked about investment income being retained by the general fund from water and sewer. So some of that ended
Well,
up.
again, you're drawing a connection to something that's really unrelated. We had surplus funds over the last 6 or 7 years that we've been setting aside in a capital reserve for just such a project. That's why we've set it aside. We didn't spend it on whatever. It was, we operated as lean as possible, and we saved that money. And so that savings, that capital reserve, is now being used to fund a capital project.
Correct, and last year, investment income was approximately 6.9 million. And
That seems high, but okay.
so without that investment income, the transfers would not have been made to get up to the 30 million. That's why I'm making that statement.
Well, I would tell you that the increased investment income from higher interest rates certainly played a part in our ability to set aside funds.
Correct, including water and sewer.
Well, as we've discussed, the interest from township investments goes into the general fund as per state law.
Okay.
Good. Any other questions for Michael?
I would like to make questions after I hear both proposals, if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
that's what I thought. Okay, so are you done, Michael?
I am.
Okay, so here, take one and pass it on. All right, I have a different proposal here for you to look at. And I'm working from the projections that Redstone provided to us. I am not interested in building a new town hall. I think the town hall we have is very sufficient. But let's start with the top page I put together here, where it says, new public safety building and fire station number 3, okay? And again, I included in the back of your packet the numbers that were included with the study that was conducted by Redstone. And you'll see in that my numbers will match up to what's on this sheet from Redstone, okay? So I'll start with a new public safety building of 60,000 square feet at $650 per square foot, which is $39 million. He put a number in here for contingency fees of $3.9 million, which is 10% of construction cost. He put in soft costs of $9,750,000 approximately, which is basically, I think, furniture and fixtures, $9,750,000. He put a price in here for a lower level parking, so we can put our cars, police cars, and parking down below of $6 million. But in his other caption, he put a little different number in there as a parking deck versus underground parking. Parking deck would be $3.9 million, but we did the $6 million. We put in there animal shelter demolition of $200,000, site work of $1,750,000, and again, I'm working from Redstone's report, which you have a copy of. And then the fire station number 3, an estimate of $12 million. If you turn the page and look at if we issue a bond to build the public safety building along with station number 3, with all the costs I just discussed, over a 20-year period, we do a $20 million bond, which creates $25,741,260 in interest over a 20-year period, with a total debt repayment millage of $75,741,260, which means we'd have to use approximately, from the $30 million we have set aside, approximately $23 million of those dollars would be used to build, and we'd be financing $50 million over 20 years with a total debt repayment of almost $76 million. If we were to do a bond for $60 million over 25 years, as Michael presented, which creates an interest of $44 million, $870,590, almost $45 million in total debt payments for over 25 years, creates a total debt of $1,875,590. So almost $30 million more to do that. Then if you look at, I put another sheet in there about Township Hall. I'll remind you, our Township Hall is paid for. It has been well maintained, and we will continue to maintain it. Police Department relocates to a new building, alleviates a space challenge at Township Hall that we've had. We've had planning, building ordinance, which I estimate that they need about 2.5 times the space that they have now. We have human resources and finance departments that are commingled together that need to be separated. This will allow us to separate them and have their own space. We also will create more conference rooms. We only have 2 to work from right now, our main conference room on the first floor, and then a small PBO conference room downstairs. And I'll tell you, when we hired an HR director, or we're in the process of hiring an HR director, we had no space to put her. I went to every department here looking for space, and no one would give up any space. And so we have a new director coming in with nowhere to put her. Finally, our police chief, Jimmy Gallagher, said, I'll give you our conference room to create space. We'll just have to share a conference room. So Jimmy, thank you for that. And that opened up a space. The other issue that we ran into is we've had some mothers come back to work that needed lactation rooms. We haven't been able to locate a space for a lactation room. And by creating this extra space, we need this extra space. And we could bring cable over here, the cable department over here, which exists of 4 employees, and we'd be able to fill about 90 to 95% of this building when PD moves out. And we don't have to move cement walls or brick walls. There's already cubicles. There's down below in PD that they could move into. There's also been drywall installed for the command staff that will be used by a deputy director and other inspectors. There's a counter there for them. If you move upstairs, we could put finance back where the PD office is, would make up more room for our HR department, and we can also expand for the clerk's office, who the clerk's office has their equipment in 2 different buildings and spread out probably in about 3 or 4 different rooms. We'll be able to combine that as well. So we would fill this building. The only problem we'd have is where the jail cells are and where they come in to come into the jail cells. That would probably, if we decided to do something that would probably determine some construction costs involved. But I see very little other construction to have to occur that we can move all these people into. And then on the last page, I put on there, it alleviates a current spacing challenge at Township Hall. We can create now a lactation room, which by law we're required to have. We bring the community cable studio over to this building, which would open up our cable building. As Michael said, it would probably take about $1 million to redo the communication and cable building into an animal shelter with dog runs, and we could probably find room to put a dog park in there. And then, because the current building is going to be demolished, we relocate and we'll be creating green space for our dogs. I also looked at through Budinsky, and I had him price out on the bonds for us, and I explained to you that under the bond, with a $50 million bond, using $23 million of our $30 million that we have saved up, would cost us a total, at the end of the day, after 20 years, $75,741,260, almost $76 million. And if you were to take the $60 million bond over 25 years, we would be paying almost $45 million in interest for a total of $104,870,590, almost $30 million more. And at the same first-year millage rate on both of the $50 million bond at 20 years is 0.2350, where the $25 million bond for the first-year millage rate would be 0.2383, and then the average annual millage requirement would be 0.4380 compared to 0.4522 for a 25 year bond, very similar numbers, but a significant savings over a period of time of $30 million. Any questions?
How about statements?
Sure.
What I want to say is I think we've, this has been a conversation that's ongoing, as Michael said, for quite some time, and it's been a really lively, interesting conversation, and it will be tonight. There's, I think, before us two very viable paths to take. The problem's the same, essential core problem, which is the public safety, the police function. It has long outgrown its space to provide the public safety, its services that are required today and into the future. And we really do need to address that. That's the sort of cornerstone issue. Of course, there's also Fire Station 3 on Maple Road that's in both of these proposals. And in both these proposals is a solution to the police challenges. Why is it a challenge? I mean, there's many reasons. The experts say so for sure, but as Michael mentioned, there's been 3 additions to this building. One of them provided space for a PBO, was a major part of that expansion when the Planning, Building, and Ordinance Department was created in the 2000s, and other functions. They live in essentially the old basement of the original building built during the Depression. Another addition created space for police and additional command, a Sally Port, additional and relocated jail cells, and that was in the 1990s. In the mid-2000s, the township asked residents to support work here on the campus, and the Department of Public Works, Fire Station number 1, Senior Center were all created, and they've been really wonderful facilities that have paid back wonderfully to the community through services for roads and seniors and so forth. But left out at that time was Town Hall and Public Safety, and that was a decision that I wasn't here for. I don't know exactly all those reasons, but certainly they were left out. It's been a need that has grown only more important as the years go by. I don't think we need to wonder why the demands on policing have changed from the 2000s with 9/11 and all the stressors that are placed on our first responders, including the police too, which have to carry. The fire, which have to carry important tasks related to emergency situations as well as the police. So we also have one of the only communities in the state that has its own emergency operations center, which both police and fire contribute to considerably, and that's over in the DPW building, as well as the gun range for police for training purposes. So this is an important inflection point in deciding the direction where we're going to go as a community. And we had those inflection points in the early 2000s and other times. So I certainly been involved in a lot of these, if not all of these conversations, and I've been debating in my own mind about which way to go. I think that, as I said, maybe not said more clearly, but I don't think there's a wrong answer. I really don't. I think that this is not a math problem that we can simply add up five numbers and say, oh, obviously it's this one. There's pluses and minuses to both approaches. No doubt Michael's decision has more money that's in the bond, and the proposal focused on public safety has less in today's dollars. But there's also long-term considerations we need to think about. So just one example of something that isn't just really easily added up. So us as trustees, we're here to make this discretionary decision. I mean, that's what we're elected to do, to think about the factors And if it were easy to be all added up, I guess we'd ask AI. I wonder what its AI's opinion is anyway. I haven't asked, but I'm sure it has one. But I'm not going to go with that, that's for sure, because, people have been elected to make these decisions. And the long-term vision here for space to solve this building's issues, which are real, and the police department's issues, and support the cost long-term. I'm very attracted to the comprehensive solution that has been presented. And I don't know what else to say about that, but it's an important decision that will have lasting impacts. If the community were to support this proposal or another proposal, it will be an investment that will pay back dividends to the taxpayers and residents through service improvements throughout the township. And I think it's well worth the investment if we just choose to ask them to support us in this endeavor, which in part is made affordable. I mean, the numbers are really on the reasonable end as far as these costs go because of the savings that have been driven and saved for over the past 6 years that would be contributed to these projects. So, yeah, those are my initial thoughts. It's about these things, and thanks for both these proposals. And I look forward to more conversation about it here tonight. So, by the way, I think that it's a testament to us and how well we think about things on behalf of our community, that we have two good proposals here to think about and debate and come to a decision on.
Can I just make a few points of clarification before we
Yeah.
engage other thoughts? So, a couple things. First, regarding the bond dollars, I suggested that we ask the voters for a 25-year period to pay the bonds. That doesn't mean we have to do 25 years. We could do 20 years. I want the flexibility for us to be able to look at the market, what our actual spending is, where interest rates are, et cetera, to make what's the best decision at the time. So going to 25 years, asking for 25 years gives us that flexibility. We could still do 20. So to compare apples to apples, if you look at a 20-year bond for the $60 million bond, the interest amount is actually only $30 million, not $44 million. So that, so you got to, versus the $25 million. So you really got to compare apples to apples there. And then the one other,
So just to be clear, Michael, and I have that here, it's 31 million in, if you went 20 years, which would drive the cost up to 91 million, which is $15 million more than the 75 million.
yes, but I was, your slide says interest, so I was comparing the interest.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at here. It'd be on a $60 million bond, a 20-year bond issue would create $31 million in interest.
Versus 25.
Versus 25, $6 million more. So it would drive the cost up to 91 million with a $60 million bond versus a 50 million bond would be at about $75 million.
Right, understood. So,
Okay.
so there's the 10 million extra of principal, and then there's a $5 million interest increase over the same 20 years. Okay, so I just want to be clear about that. Regarding the project costs, a couple things. First, the proposal that Redstone put together assumed one building, and he allocated the cost for that building between public safety and town hall. So for example, looking at the site work is going to cost $2.5 million regardless of whether you make it 3 floors or 2 floors. The site work is the site work. So you really have to include the 2.5 million total for the building. He just allocated it between the two, assuming that we were all in one building. But if it's only public safety, then that 2.5 million would have to go to public safety. So that would be an additional 750,000. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that I'm using a different number for the construction costs, which came from the Smith Group, and I validated against Novi's recent project construction costs. So it may be that it is only going to cost us $650. I estimated $850 per square foot. So to compare the proposals, you really ought to put them on the same, cost structure. You can't, I'm being more conservative with my numbers. That's why I used 850 based on what I saw
Well,
from.
if you're using 850, that's a much higher cost than the 650 I used, so it would drive the cost up even higher, right?
No, 850 is what I used in my proposal, but I'm saying
Right,
that
and
that number came from the Smith Group, which was validated against what Novi is currently spending. So I'm saying, I hope it's 650 a square foot, in which case I'd have to recalculate my numbers and they would actually be lower.
Right, so
I'm using a higher number as a conservative estimate based on what I'm seeing out there. So that, I just want to clarify that you, to keep in mind that we're using two different sets of cost
Well, I'm
estimates.
just using the Redstone that came here and did their study, and that's what we're using, that's what you have in front of you.
I understand, but Smith Group also did a study, and they,
And did they go throughout every building?
They
And-
did.
And I didn't see that. Do you have a copy that you could share with us?
I could certainly print it out and give it to you.
Okay.
When, I know Redstone was done a few years ago, so that might be a little more out of date. When was the Smith
Right.
study done?
Smith Group study was done at the end of 25, beginning of 26.
Because as we all know, everything just seems to go up, so.
Oh, it is, absolutely. Yep. But we also have to look at what our needs are and what our wants are. Our needs are a public safety building and a new fire station. We may want a new town hall, but our need is public safety, and that is fire and police.
If I may make a couple of comments. So I want to emulate what Clerk Brooke talked about is, I think regardless of what option we choose here today, we're going after the needs of the township, which Supervisor McCready is talking about. The needs are police and fire, and the needs are to follow our strategic plan and make investments in our infrastructure. So we are following that regardless of what plan we go through. We talk about being financial stewards of this money, which I know Supervisor McCready continues to talk about, which I appreciate. I think about, as treasurer, we reissued some of our bonds, and as a board came up with different types of policies so we could provide SAD money returns in a faster manner. Again, being good stewards of our taxpayer money. As supervisor, Supervisor McCready went to the county and was able to lobby to get some extra money from the county to help offset some of these SADs. So again, constantly, whether it was $50,000 or $500,000 in some cases, we're always looking for ways to help our taxpayers with this shoulder of burden that a lot of our services have. When I look at the clerk, he redo some of our voting districts and even did some of the elections in-house to save us some of those monies for elections. So every turn, our administration here, the people who do day-to-day operations, are looking to save taxpayer money. So we don't take these millages or asking for money lightly. And that's what we can see here today, is that the treasurer is thinking this is our best option and the best way moving forward, looking holistically. Our supervisor is looking holistically on what he believes is the best thing possible for our residents. And I think this is really great, because then we have two great proposals. At the end of the day, we have shown a track record of doing the right thing regardless. So I appreciate that. So I thank you both for taking the time to do that and coming up with these ideas. I really appreciate you, Supervisor, trying to do the lowest interest burden possible to try to save taxpayers the most amount of interest. So you could have found ways to make it a 25-year bond and made that millage less, so that it looked like a bigger difference, but you didn't, because your goal was to make it as fiscally prudent and cheapest for our residents. So I appreciate that. You could have tried to make the numbers work. You didn't. You tried to do it the cheapest way, not the cheapest way, the most fiscally conservative way possible for our residents, which is a testament to what you believe in. When I look at this, I am more interested and more supportive at this time for doing a holistic approach. When I look at the difference for taxpayers, we're talking about, on average, $20. When we look at what our strategic plan has asked for, this checks a lot more of the boxes for what the residents have asked. either proposal checks a lot of the boxes. This one just happens to check more for green space, and it reduces the liability and uncertainty of our township hall. But I think regardless which way our board goes, this is gonna address a lot of issues that have been kicked, the can has been kicked down the road for many years. But as board, we've put ourselves in a position that we can actually make this investment. And that's a testament to everybody who's been here, and everybody who's been here for a few extra years, including Neil over there. But again, it took a while for us to get here, and now we're in a position where we can actually make that investment. So I thank you both for that.
Well, Chris, let me ask you a question. Have you talked to your residents about building a new town hall?
I have.
And what's the comments back?
Like a lot of people, when we make these investments, even in their own home, we know that it's gonna be expensive. So we want to do the construction one time, and we know construction costs continue to go up. So when I explained to them that the difference could be $25 to $30 on average, which was my original numbers, as you and this board have kind of sharpened that pencil throughout this 6-month process we've talked about, they said if we're gonna do it, we should do it now, because everything continues to go up, their construction costs go up, and they are seeing that. A lot of them say we don't want to have to spend the money, but we see the need, and this board has educated them on what our police is going through, what our fire station looks like. And anybody who's been to town hall can kind of see some of that dysfunction that you've talked about, where PBO is and how jammed they are, and how the clerk's office is kind of jammed in, and how we could better utilize that space. So almost everyone that I've met has been supportive. They just want to make sure that whatever we do, we're being fiscal stewards with their money, which our board, including yourself, has always shown, and that we're not wasting their money.
Neil?
Yeah, thank you both, Mike and Michael, for the presentations. They're both, I think, very good proposals, and they both meet the most important need that we have, which is our police department. Our police department is the primary need that we have to take care of. They're don't have enough space. They don't meet the needs as far as attracting and taking care of our officers, having locker rooms for both men and women, and certainly having more conference rooms so they can speak to residents when, whether it's domestic violence or sexual violence or whatever it is, so they have space rather than speaking to residents in the lobby, which certainly observed a couple of weeks ago after an unfortunate situation. So there's no question, I think most of us, if not all of us, agree that the police department has the paramount need as far as improving their facilities and to bring them up to the standards of 2026 and beyond. No question about Fire Station number 3. It's certainly extremely busy. They go on more runs than anybody, and they're in a very busy, high-volume location with Maple and Telegraph, and the building it's almost a joke. I mean, it's so small, and it can't have it really needs to be improved. We probably need another location, but whatever we need to improve it. So I don't think there's any question about the needs both of police and fire. As far as Township Hall, I think it's a want, not to say that it's something that's not important. It certainly is. When we started this whole venture back in the winter, my thought was, well, we don't need to really tackle Township Hall at this time, just police and fire. But I will say, Michael, you've done a very nice job of looking at the numbers, trying to bring the numbers down and come up with a plan that works or is more workable, to put it that way. My concerns with Township Hall, which I've certainly verbalized before, has been if we are going to replace it, we have to make a strong case that in the long run, we're saving the residents money. And whether it's through retrofitting, maintenance, long-term maintenance, construction costs, when you look at the whole picture, and efficiency and service to our residents, is it going to improve all of that? If the case can be made that it is in fact improving efficiencies through departments, for our residents, for the services, then that's something that I certainly believe needs consideration. So again, I'm certainly open to both proposals. And also the other part of the having the park, as far as Michael's proposal, I think is that green space is very attractive. I know most of us have certainly wanted a park. This is, I think, the first one I've seen where the location is more ideal than the other ones that have been proposed. So that's also a valuable consideration. So thank you both.
So, initially, I was 100% on board with Michael's proposal, because to renovate an old building and unknown maintenance, and unfortunately, for what's happened before we were here, this campus is so chopped up. If you visit other municipalities, you see where they have a campus and there's actually more of a flow, or maybe a better thought process. It seems like we've got all these pieces and parts of different departments and different buildings, and so to do it right and create, one new building and the park is extremely appealing to me, and that's kind of where I've been. However, it does cost more money, would put us in a better long-term position. It gets us the park, which I can't tell you how many residents have talked to me about the park. It's very much an issue, and it's very much needed in our community. So I'm really torn. I don't think we can go totally wrong with either plan, because I think bottom line, we need to make the improvements for public safety. Fire Station 3 and the police department, way past time that we address that. And that's my primary concern, kind of like Chris with his wants and needs. That's a need. What concerns me, the only $20 or whatever average homeowner cost per year, to me, seems like it's worth it to go with the holistic approach. That being said, we just had an election where multiple of our neighboring communities did not pass millages, some of which for police and some for fire. And our community's always been extremely supportive of police and fire. I hope it stays that way. But considering, I think it was 8 communities, I can't remember when I've seen that before. And some of them are saying, well, come January 1st, we just don't have a fire department. As a resident, that would be extremely frightening and worrisome, and, because they've waited till there isn't time to have another election in there, not likely, to try and bolster that and try and get it approved again. So I think the thought processes we put into this, the 2 plans, I could go either way. I like them both. I think we need to do one. But I'm a little bit torn, as, we've just invested like in this room. We've just put a lot of money in this room. So to bulldoze that personally hurts my feelings. But the big picture would be.
Most of the money was technology, though, which would be transferable.
A lot of it, yes.
This is a resurfaced desk.
That's true. And a lot of things could be taken over, like all the furniture. All the furniture
Yes.
we've done over at Cable, and any of those things would be movable to their ultimate
Yes.
new location. I love the idea of a bigger animal shelter. I think nobody here is surprised to hear that. I have 5 kittens at my house today. Felt like bringing one up, but I know Mike's allergic, so we didn't go there.
Thank you.
So that's where I'm at, sort of torn.
Right. So let me ask you a question, Val, because you brought up some good points there. Let's say we went with this 3-story building. Right now, residents can come in on the first floor, walk in and pay their taxes. Or the construction, the permit people come in, they go downstairs and pay. Very easy access in this building. If you go into a 3-story building, how do you lay that out to have easy access for the residents, but also for PD to respond to calls.
That is a interesting question. We have Police Chief Gallagher here. Would he
Well,
like to address that?
It's more of a facility design issue,
Right?
right? But just think about that.
That's a great question.
It's a great question,
So,
and that's why I was thinking, let's ask Chief
I
Gallagher for
think
an
about, City of Birmingham has 2 stories, City of Royal Oak has 3 stories.
Right.
So there are other buildings and there are experts that can help lay that out. And then since our building was kind of cobbed together, I think when our police chief designs his building, whether it's a police station only or a police station and town hall, they'd be looking at ways to mitigate danger areas and/or issues for not only our residents, but also all staff. But I think that'd be part of his architecture and his planning, regardless of which building we approached. Because whether it's a 3-story town hall or a 2-story police station, there's still gonna be people moving around. But
Have you ever been to our state capitol recently?
I have not had the privilege.
Have any of you ever been?
I have.
Have you? It's in pretty good shape, really well taken care of. I'd say we take good care of our building, just saying. That building's 147 years old.
I didn't know that. No, I have definitely been in that building just a few years ago.
Yeah. And we've maintained this building, I think, at the same level, and we would continue to maintain it. And it'd be a lot less than the additional $15 to $30 million. And granted, you have to replace HVAC systems, you have some imbalances. But look at, I mean, we just redid this room. We did build-outs downstairs, very easy access for our residents right now.
Yeah, I guess I'm more concerned about, I would think designers would, excuse me, help us
Oh, sure.
make the best choices.
Sure they
But
would.
police and our fire station, that's our ultimate, gotta be most convenient for
And that's our
getting
need.
in and out.
And that's our need. And that's what we should be
It's
focusing on.
top priority.
And that's what we should be focusing on.
Well, I'll just throw out there that Redstone did provide a 3-story diagram as part of their study when they provided those cost estimates. I have it here if anyone wants to look at it. And NOAA has already come up with between $6 and $10 million in upgrades and repairs that would need to happen to this building over the next 10 to 15 years. So if you're talking about a difference between $15 million on one hand, $6 to $10 million to upkeep this building.
Well, actually, I think he did it over 20 years. And he put together 6.7 million over 20 years. And of that 6.7 million, he put a $2 million figure of miscellaneous. So I think it was done not in the best interest that we should have to be accurate. But there were some points in there I think he did made about some windows being changed out. But these are all keeping your building up, which we've done here for years. This is a good building. It's been kept up. The problem we're having here is we have too many people in this building. And by moving PD out, we finally get the room that we need to expand. And PD then can keep up, recruit people, have lockers and facilities for men and women, have proper lockup facilities, and keep up with the changing environment of chasing down the criminal, whether it's out on the street or, trying to get to our senior citizens. And that's one of the biggest concerns that we have today. What's the priority? And our priority are our residents and taking care of our residents.
Well, and the
responding
fire
to them.
department responding too, I know all too well
Absolutely.
about that.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's the priority of both proposals, which is public safety. And both proposals have addresses what's left with, when police leave and have their own building, if that were to be supported by the residents, we either, invest additional dollars and put town hall with them, or we invest additional dollars and retrofit the existing town hall. So both proposals focus on public safety, and both proposals have to address what's left of us.
But when you talk about retrofitting, we're really only talking about one area, which is the jail cell area, right? When you talk about retrofitting, are you thinking about different retrofitting in some different areas here?
I think that there's Well, you've identified the most important, which is building planning ordinance, which touches more residents than really almost anybody. I
Well,
mean, it's really big.
And
They have a
defining,
huge
and
need.
and defining finance department, and defining
Yep.
the
HR.
HR department, right?
Additional space for clerk
Right.
requirements.
And then bringing the clerks in together.
And bringing communications over here. All those things, I think, so it's not a little project.
No.
But it's completely doable. And that's absolutely right. I mean, the space here that would be created by the police department being in its own building is absolutely sufficient to cover all of those issues. IT is in two different areas. You know, maybe they want IT in its other area because they do service a bunch of people on the other side of, the other buildings, but yeah, so either way, we're looking at a public safety focused proposal that also has a component to address town hall. One is, to include it in the construction we're doing, and there's some advantages to that, that we've talked about. But having command and elected officials together, EOC together, I mean, those are good things. I think it does, overall, will have smaller ongoing maintenance costs to have one building versus two. How much that is, or when that break-even point is, I don't know. We don't know. I mean, you made a point of that. Noah put in $2 million because I think he recognizes, not because he's trying to pad it in any way, but he recognizes that it's unpredictable.
Well, we're still trying to work on getting
so-
numbers of what it costs us every year to operate this building. And those are really the basis that we need to use going forward. And we haven't
As I
identified
understand it,
those.
it's not accounted, the
Yeah.
accounting doesn't
Right.
address it building by building. It's more maintenance, and then we've asked for that. I don't believe we can.
Right, but
we
I
can
think it's
obtain
something that we have to
information,
work
actually.
on. It's something we have to work on to define
Yeah.
it. Because it's predicting the future versus looking at the past, you have to have a combination.
I would love to have that past number, but I think we've been told we can't get it.
I think we will get it, it's just a matter of working on it.
Oh,
And we also have, fire station, fire in the next building over. And we have DPW in another building. We have senior services in another building, right? So it's not, it's kind of a practice we have.
it is.
good or
and-
for
and
bad?
I'm- Yeah, for good or
For
for
good or
bad.
for bad, it's a
Well,
practice.
we're such
yeah.
a close
Yeah.
campus.
Well, and that's true, and your point about, you go to the senior center, you walk in and you're there, and you go over to the fire department, you walk in and you're
Very
there.
convenient for our residents.
Um,
And we're an aging community.
Yeah, I mean, so with building and planning ordinance, if they move to the police department, they'll still have their own separate entrance. And and that's that's an important part of the accessibility you've mentioned.
But then
And-
again, if you don't go in there regularly, I'm sure for builders and homeowners that have active projects, but I have to tell you, we've lived here 40 years, we've done multiple projects, but we were just here, and my own husband did not know that we could go in down there. So I think a lot of people probably come in the front door and then go looking for it.
Yeah, most people do, and then they get guided to whatever department they need to go to, whether it's the clerk's office, the treasurer, the assessor, or
Right.
PBO.
But that downstairs location is extremely handy.
It is.
If you know about it, but.
Well, all the contractors know where to go, how to get there.
Right.
And they're
The
the ones that
people,
are
the
waiting here at
regulars.
7
Regulars,
AM.
yeah.
Usually the residents come in later in the day into the evening hours.
But it is awfully convenient, I will say, if they have to be in the lower level, that you can just walk in.
Right.
Yeah, right now, there's no space for residents or contractors to collaborate with, the building officials. There's no space to lay out a plan and really look at it. It's
No.
really
Just that counter.
inhibits the free flow of communications and ideas between them and efficiency
Yeah.
for the projects that residents have, which are numerous every single year.
And like when UHY was in here doing their audit, which they come in every year for 3 weeks, right? They use the main conference room, which locks us out of conference room, so we either go to the fire department or we go down to senior center.
Fire department has a nice conference room, I've been in there.
Yeah, they do. But it just shows you how limited we've been, how jammed in here people have been, and this is an opportunity to finally expand.
Right.
A couple things that, just more statements, if you don't mind, to create meaningful discussion. Noah brought up around anywhere from 6.7 to 10 million, but let's go with the 6.7 number, of just known maintenance items on this building versus a brand-new building, which is about $15 million difference. So that's what some of the difference we're talking about here. So having some unknown versus known, and how we as a board and future boards want to be able to maintain that. That's one thing, when we talk about those numbers. The other one is, a lot of our residents do go down to PBO, but they don't realize there is that walkway. So they have to go down steps, or they have to go into the supervisor's area to use the elevator. So our building really isn't set up great for some of our aging residents. We do have one of the oldest populations in Oakland County as a whole. So when we build this new building, we can take into account how those residents will utilize the space and make sure that we design it in residents at the forefront of our thoughts. Right now, this building is kind of 3 buildings put together, and it doesn't necessarily function the best. We have made do, and as you said, Supervisor McCready, we have done the best with what we have, and we have maintained it to a high level. It doesn't mean that we can't be better. So again, the stairway going down, I know residents who have physical disabilities, that is hard, they have to go the different way. And again, I'm a contractor, I didn't know it was there until I became a township trustee that there was another entrance, just because I always come to stairs. But I don't have that same need or disadvantage that some other people have. So wanting to think about all of our residents, that new building will address that need. So.
I want to thank Supervisor McCready for his comment on the entrances. I think that's very insightful. It was consistent with concerns raised by Chief Gallagher when he gave me his tour. And on a privacy side, sometimes when there are personal issues that you want to address with the police staff, seeing people that are here for building permits and whatnot, seeing you go in, it can be a little bit embarrassing when there's nothing wrong. So on that note, I want to thank you for making that comment. I do believe the police department does need a new facility. My number one concern is the debt millage, and the township has prudently set aside $30 million over 6 years. That's $5 million a year on average. So I don't see the need to go out for a bond debt millage for $3 million a year. I think it's a little bit excessive based on the township's performance.
Can you expound on that a little bit at the end there?
60 million divided by 6 is 5 million. Treasurer Schostak mentioned the bond debt millage for the more expensive project would bring in about $3 million a year. And if that's, so 5 million versus 3 million, that seems like you have some room, and therefore I believe it's excessive.
Oh, I see, okay. So I just don't think that our budgets project now that the 5 million we were able to accumulate per year, or the 30 million total, won't continue. That we will have a surplus this year, but I think the projection is that that's not going to continue. I mean, otherwise that would be a great source of funds. I mean, that's a very good point. But it's been considered, and the cash flow isn't there, any longer.
Maybe that's what you're getting at, Martin. Some of our bonds are going to be falling off in the next few years. DPW, and certainly the pension costs are going to be going down.
Yep.
So there's additional sources.
Well, the senior center's coming up too,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's part of the capital improvement, yeah. With
The campus
DPW
bond.
and senior center, the campus, yep.
So Mark, I appreciate the thought about trying to find a way to internally bond, which is what other communities have done with some of these projects. I believe maybe we kind of not glossed over, but the money that was at $30 million that have been created by this board and past boards were a result of interest earnings going up significantly, which again were tied to interest rates rising. Also, negotiation of contracts that were done for 5- and 6-year contracts. So there were savings there. And then the big one was the township going self-insured in 2020. So those 3 things happened we're at a time where we were able to kind of save some money and be financially frugal during those times. But as we've had to reposition with contracts that attract the best employees, and as this board has done, made investments in both our facilities, our people, and at times our roads, that's where some of those extra monies in the future are going. So I don't believe it's,
We only go out 1 year on a budget, so if those documents are available, some communities go out 3 years, some go out 5 years, but we don't have that information. So if it is available, then the township should make it available to everyone.
Well, I think it speaks to the stewardship or the fiscal responsibility of this board that we and our treasurer, who has done an amazing job with our investments, renegotiating bonds and, securing better interest rates when interests were a little higher, that we created that equipment and replacement fund. And that's a really sizable investment that we've set aside because we knew there were going to be some things coming, and I think it was, really responsible. And I think that will help a lot. Either proposal, very much needed, and both are very expensive. That's kind of where we're at. But we need to do one or the other because it's way past time to take care of the fire station and the police station.
and then I just want to point out if in Supervisor McCready's proposal, which again, he's going right off of Redstone, he didn't come up with these numbers, he didn't, whatever the expert said at the time, shows $650 a square foot, which comes out to that $39 million for the public safety building. If we went with the updated numbers that Treasurer Schostak was coming up with, it would add another $12 million just to public safety if we went from $650 a square foot to $850 a square foot. So now we're talking $12 million, which continues to bridge that gap between the two. And again, it's not that either proposal is using different numbers or driving it, they have different experts that they're utilizing for their proposal.
Well, I don't recall ever seeing Smith Group numbers. I remember seeing a schematic of a plan, but I don't remember ever seeing a numbers breakdown from Smith Group like we received from Redstone. And we need to have it tonight to look at it so we can compare it.
Which is a fair thing, right? Like, you're going off of, this is how you're doing your number and that. So if we did Treasurer Schostak's number, which was reducing it to $650, the savings would be significant.
Right, because the Redstone proposal is older, and at the end of the day, whichever proposal we go with, the cost is going to be the cost per square foot. So it isn't that, Michael's is going to cost more per square foot, and yours is going to cost less.
But it's going to cost more to add a town hall.
It is.
And that's, I think, what we haven't really determined, how much extra that would cost, both immediately and then long-term, when we already have a town hall that's paid for and has been maintained at a very high standard. I just can't vote for another town hall when we have this town hall, and we need to focus on our needs, not our wants. We may want a new town hall, but we need to talk about what's the most important to our community and ourselves, which is public safety and a fire station.
Well, and we do have multiple things going here, the fire station and the police station, and those are our top concerns.
That's right.
Well, in both proposals, we have more than that. We have police station, fire station, and animal shelter, and then upgrades to town hall. So we are touching all those other things. So again, as I've said, and Supervisor McCready continues to say, there are needs and wants, but we're touching everything in each proposal. It is, where do we want to make this investment now? We're going to make this investment now, or is that investment going to be something in the future? So, I think.
Well, I'll just add that, I definitely understand the description of needs versus wants. The compelling point for me on this is that in the long run, it is more financially in the best interest of the township to move into one building rather than operate out of two buildings, because you've got to have the additional costs of now two buildings, plus this being an older building, the extra cost of that. And yeah, ideally, you know, if this were a newer building, it wouldn't be an issue, but it's the unknown cost of this building in the long run. 10 years from now, it's going to be a 100-year-old building. And it's
Well, I think there is some weight to that, no doubt, but if you're adding 30,000 square feet to a new building, you're going to be paying to maintain that additional 30,000 square feet,
well,
right?
my proposal only adds another 18 or 19,000 square feet.
But we really need around 30,000 square feet to handle our different departments. I mean, we're jammed in at 35,000 square feet. Once PD moves out, we're going to refill this 90 to 95%. And you've all walked around to see how it is.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused between that this building would be, was it 40% empty? Considering that we have these other needs for the spaces.
Right.
And if we move the cable station over here, which I think would be great, that's going to take quite a lot of the space that gets vacated by the police department. I guess I don't see.
Well, there's 4 people in communications, plus a little studio, right?
Right.
And we could take, and Michael budgeted, and I figured $1 million for that to make it the animal shelter with green space for the dogs to run, plus a dog park.
It gets it further away from maybe a little
Telegraph
further
Road.
from Telegraph.
Right, from Telegraph Road, that's right. But you can't cut short what we need for general office space. And if you walk into each department, we are so on top of each other. And even when I was trying to get space for HR director, Martin was the best when he said, "You can't take space from me, I'll chain myself to my office before I allow you to take any space."
That's true.
But the chief gave us space, so thank you.
But he
And
did.
I actually
Thank
would.
you. Thank you.
But that takes away space that he needs for his department and today's
We
standards.
all need to run an election.
Well, we definitely need to run an election, and we definitely need an HR person to have a space, and
Well,
we
we
need a
actually-
lactation room, which we still can't seem to find.
I mean, we'd have another 5,000 to 7,000 up here, and then there's 17,000 downstairs. You give planning and building another 2,000. You bring over cable, it's about 4,000. That still leaves 11,000, and a lot of that space is going to be very expensive to repurpose.
Well, that's the point. We're not, that's not, I don't agree with that. Planning PBO need about 2.5 times the amount of space that they have. They are so jammed in. I don't know if you saw that one inspector that had just a little desk that they sat at.
And they need more conference room space.
And they
Yes.
need conference room space, right? The only real purposing, Michael, that I would tell you I agree with is where when a prisoner comes in.
Sally Port.
The Sally Port and the jail cells. That would be the one area that we'd have to really repurpose. The rest of it, I don't see moving any walls. I mean, Jimmy has workstations already set up there where the detectives are. And the command staff now, he just built in some drywall, private offices, and there's a counter there. And one thing we don't have in PBO that we have is if there was an emergency down there, we really don't have both two ways in and out. This would allow us now to have two-way in and out
Oh, through the police side.
through the police side. And then I think someone mentioned about the elevator. The elevator that we have now is restricted to PD use only. So unless you have clearance through police, you can't use that elevator. So that would open up to allow to use for general public as well.
Oh, that's huge.
There's
I
also
had
about
to ask
6,000
today.
square feet of locker rooms and showers and things like that
Right.
that would need to be repurposed.
What about, you have the weight room that the police use, that will also be moved out of the public safety
It's
building?
over in DPW.
Or yeah. And then you also have the shooting range. Will we keep that, or will that be new?
Well, for now, the Oakland County's developing a new training center, and they're probably going to have are they going to have a range there, Chief? Right.
That is not, range is an issue.
I think that's one of the
Nothing
things.
historical on that recently.
Oh, I thought they said that they were building something that all the departments could use.
Yeah. the Oakland County Sheriff's Department has their range in the basement of their jail area. And that's staying put, that's their facility range. The training facility there is replacing the Brandon facility, which is where we do all our active shooter response, or where they do their active shooter response training. And OPTAC, we then use that as well for some of the new hire active shooter response, in addition to our own that we do on site. So our current building, we have, the range was, actually Chief Bowden was here the other day, and I kind of asked him, how did our range end up here? It's when they built, when they tore down the back garages, if you remember correctly, the garages, maintenance garages were where the salt dome kind of is, ran north and south where the salt dome was. Our range was on the back side of that, so in order to do that, they had to demo our range, and the only place they could put it was there. He said it's been a problem from day one. They argued about doing that in 07, 06 when they were planning, because they knew it was gonna be a problem with the offices above, and now that's our current problem today. Our current range is obsolete. When I say obsolete, the equipment, the company went out of business. We're literally buying parts on eBay now. So there would be some considerations down there. I don't know what you could do with that space, but the range is something that would have to be discussed or somehow, during this process, one of those things, so.
Do the new building proposals include a range? I thought that,
That new building did not include a range.
okay.
No, that's where the whole conversation came up with the training grounds up at Golf Drive, was that's what spearheaded that conversation there, and that, again, that was not our proposal. There are options at the new building. I'll give you an example. East Point PD is currently in the process of building a new police department. I think they broke ground here in the last month or two, and they're building a range on their property, and I think the cost ended up being only 1.4 million. And so it's gonna be in the parking lot, kind of odd, but I think there's options, but again, until we get an architect in here to say, if it's a police-only building, if we're doing lower level underground parking, is there an opportunity to take away some of those parking spaces, and put a range, below ground?
And there's a lot of money involved with underground parking right now.
Yeah, and again, that was I don't know which proposal that was, Redstone, I can't remember between the deck and the underground, so.
What about the,
The deck was 3.5 or 3.9, and the underground was over 6 million.
Yeah.
oh, wow. What about the, I know we can't force the issue, but PBO's only in there Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and police officers work 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. I don't know how many hours a week or hours a month it's used, but is there a way to shift the hours of use? Because after 5:30, PBO is probably empty.
We already have. Other than our basic qualifications, Supervisor McCready had approved us to add some for our training when we use our rifles, et cetera, down there, on doing some suppressive type, just fire, muffle it up. But I have some significant safety concerns in the upstairs that I won't get into in a public forum for those employees over there, that we have altered those times. The problem is again, when we talk about the youth of our organization, we're in there a lot more. Now, our accreditation, we qualify quarterly, but that's not enough time down at a range. And so we have moved it to weekends.
Friday,
we
Saturday,
allowed
Sunday.
We allowed some of our partnership SWAT teams to train in there as well, so we've put a stop to all that. Or it becomes an overtime issue, really.
Yeah,
We have to
that's what I
train.
was
It becomes an
interested in.
overtime issue, which then over long term is cost.
Costs.
Yeah, and just getting in half an hour after you get off your shift, or before you go in, you get in early, it's enough to keep them sharp and accurate, and if you don't get that time, because DPW is there, then it's.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that, and there's other things, right? I mean, doesn't matter what we've done, and you guys have all stressed it, that lower level was police department. That was when the buildings over there were created, that was the police department's, involvement at the time. But every one of these organizations or areas have now expanded. We need training rooms for the entire township. We host different types of leadership training now, and so those areas we have to fight for those areas when That's where we do our defensive tactics. That's where we do our classrooms. I mean, there's just so much that we try to do. And an agency our young, this young, we have to train.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think, as I said, for myself anyway, I think that both proposals are getting at the needs that are required to provide the services that are expected by the residents. And, one does it in a lower numbers for bond support and a remodel component, which will, have less costs today. The other one is a little more today, a higher bond component, but arguably has greater costs over the long term and, ties our hands here with, there's less flexibility in the future. But that's down the road. I don't really know how to predict those costs, but I think they're real. But in the end, I think that both of them get to the situation that we have to address, and I can support both. And I think that I'd like to hear sort of where everybody is ultimately here on the board and see what they can support and go from there.
So, I agree with you, I can support either one. I think, kind of like what I do personally is when you're gonna make a project, you do all the things you can now because costs are just gonna continue to rise. And sometimes I can't predict what the costs are gonna be on my home or on older cars or older products, but when I have something new, it is more of a predictable cost basis for me and my family. So I'm gonna take that same approach here, and I am gonna be in support of the $60 million bond now to hope that, again, long-term, it is more fiscally prudent for our residents going forward and has a predictive measure for cost and maintenance, and will address a lot of our issues associated with accessibility in the building for our residents.
And I suppose there's one other option, which is to do nothing. I mean, we could do nothing, that is a third
No,
option.
I don't think
but
that's a good option.
Well, I guess was.
Yeah, so I don't think doing, and again, what I appreciate
Do
is
nothing option.
both options are addressing the needs. And I think nobody on this board will say that doing nothing is the right approach. That's just kicking the can down the road, which is what other boards have had to do based on the financial situation. We have, as this board and previous boards, created this position where we can make this investment, and we have the ability to. So again, that's a testament to not only us, but boards before us that got us here. So again, that's where my stance is.
I could support either one, and I think we definitely need to put one through.
So which one would you do, Val?
I told you, I'm conflicted. I was all about the whole comprehensive plan. But I know that asking the residents to go there, considering that election we just had, if it fails, then where have we gone?
But if it fails, it doesn't mean we don't have a police department or a fire department. We would just, that we would just then be able to listen to our residents and they can tell us. Similar to these other millages, which
Those are for
you pointed out,
services.
and again, you pointed out as well as
Yeah.
Supervisor McCready has, and it's very fair. Some residents have been very outspoken about some of their millages. Some of the millages we're talking about are 3.5 mils, 2.5 mils, big dollars. What we're talking about, which, again, to the credit of everybody, is we're talking about $20 difference to our average resident.
And those millages were for services, not for buildings.
So, now Supervisor McCready has pointed out other places have missed on some of their investments in their buildings, but a lot of the feedback was, are you being transparent about where you're spending the money? Both plans are very comprehensive about where we're spending the money and what we're doing with it. So Supervisor McCready's plan is very comprehensive about where I'm spending my dollars. The same thing with Michael's. This is where our dollars are being spent based on what you've asked for us.
So Chris, let me ask you a question. You're a voter, right?
Yes,
We're all
sir.
voters, right? Our
Well,
voters
Chris is a
are-
builder, too.
Yeah, he builds new homes, so he likes new.
But I live in a house from
But he understands
1963.
Why is
Construction
that,
was my
Chris? Why do you
point.
live in a house from 1963? Why don't you just build yourself a brand-new house?
Because I couldn't afford it in the township.
That's right, that's why, that's right. But if you're a voter now and you've heard our conversation, this will all be in the press, right?
Yes.
We gotta put a proposal out there that has the best chance of passing. And that's what's most important. And they're gonna hear what's best chance of passing is the needs of our public safety department and our fire department.
And best-in-class services and infrastructure.
We're not gonna change our best-in-class services. We won't allow that to happen. We could work out of a trailer, and with this group, we will provide the services our residents expect.
Okay, well, this is, I agree, it's a very difficult decision, and, I mean, as I mentioned, I could be listening to everything, persuaded both ways. However, Mike, you just mentioned something that we have talked about. What is the most likely, or what's the strongest thing we could put on, proposal we could put on the ballot as far as having the residents' support? And I believe yours is probably the one that would get the easiest support. I like Michael's proposal, even though the building is, I mean, I'm not scared away the fact this is a 90-year-old building. Look at the Fisher Building. It's 100 years old. This is no Fisher Building, but.
This was built during the Depression, too.
Exactly, exactly. But, I mean, this is.
In 4 months.
Yes, 3 different buildings that are kind of put together. It's not efficient. It doesn't meet the efficiencies that our residents need, both for disability, both for, just use and in general. But I think I can make do with it as far as if we have to put a little more money into it to make it more efficient, so be it. The other part, too, is, as I mentioned, so we have Public Works, Senior Center, and all of those bonds are they'll be falling off in a few years, in addition to another one after that. So if we decide moving forward, or whichever who's on the board decides moving forward, that a new town hall is something that seems that is needed, then I believe we'll have less debt as far as in that area, and there'll be more money available if the people wanted to move forward with it. But getting back to where I started with this, I do think that doing police and Fire Station 3 and your proposal, Mike, I believe has the best opportunity to get the support of the residents.
Anybody else have comments?
I think I've made mine. My concern is Township has set aside 30 million over 6 years. It's 5 million a year on average. I think a portion should come from the current revenue stream.
We're going to be giving 30 million in Michael's proposal, and 17 million in Mike's proposal. So we are going to be providing a significant investment from that. In Mike's proposal, he's setting aside money because there are some unknowns with this building, and to make sure. So again, doing the fiscally prudent thing to make sure that we could lower it more, but then we expose the township. That's not what he's doing in this proposal.
I
So
think
either
Michael
one.
did look at self-financing.
Huh? Yeah, we do
So,
look at
like-
self-financing. So again, in both proposals, they are doing that. So which proposal will you be willing to support?
I don't support doing a debt millage, so
Okay.
I think they need a new police station, and I think we can use the same policies that have generated that 30 million to pay for the new building.
So we would, okay.
Do you have some ideas? Like, I'm open, what policies do you think we should be following that would free up that kind of money?
The same policies that you used to generate the 30 million.
But,
Well, those are the past.
That
I
was
mean, that's-
also during COVID.
but
Right,
again,
so that
we
was-
had 6-year contracts with our, all of our different unions. We had COVID, we had done self-insured, which worked out timing to be a significant financial, so like, those were one-time big hits to our budget, and then the increase in interest income, which was not necessarily predictable at that time. We can't predict going forward that we're gonna be able to get $3 to $5 million a year in interest income. And in either proposal, we're gonna be spending down a lot of our cash. So our experts are telling us we can't self-fund at this time. So if we have a need, I don't wanna kick the can down the road, whatever proposal we do, as a board, we're gonna come to a consensus to do one of these investments. Again, they have a need, and we have to address it. Kicking the can down the road, because we don't want debt, is a noble thing, but it still makes our men and women of our police department, our fire department, not have the facilities they need.
Well, and the whole problem with kicking the can down the road is that everything gets more expensive. And you're in construction, case in point, my parents bought a house back in the 50s, and my mom was very conservative, they paid cash. They saved up their money for 4 years, and they paid cash for my childhood home. But they wanted a garage, and the garage was another $1,000 in 1951. And my mother didn't want a loan at 4%. So they saved the money for a year and called the builder back. Well, it was, $2,000 the next year. So 4% interest and all the hassle of bringing them back and putting off doesn't make it cheaper, even if you can go on a cash basis. If you have the cash now, sure, pay down what we can. I'm all for that. Reduce the bond, reduce the interest. But to say, well, maybe we could save $5 million a year for a few more years, it's going to be a more expensive proposal. And in the meantime, the need is now, and the cost we know is going to go up.
That's not the point I was making. If the township generated on average $5 million a year, why would you need the additional cash? You don't need it.
Well, and it was brought up by Michael, and I think Mike before, is when some of these bonds fall off, especially the ones that we internally bonded, like the pension bonds, could we utilize some of our general fund revenue to offset this? And the answer, I think, came back was yes. So in either proposal, future boards could find ways to reduce that burden to our residents. But right now, the need is right now, and we cannot internally bond for it. Those are knowns. So if you're on the board, or if I'm on the board in the future, we can make those fiscally prudent decisions, regardless of which one we go with.
Jimmy, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just in response to a couple things that Trustee Antocley had said. We were down, we are, for the first time since I've been chief, and we just started my 5th year and my 6th year at fully staffed per personnel. We had significant savings within the police department in a bad way, and 14 open police officer positions. So over however many of that time, that's a lot of money. We also have not done any, other than the mandatory operational capital improvements we needed to make downstairs, so that we had open women's lockers for officers, and expanding a dispatch room that we had to have. That some of that capital improvement money that was able to get us to that $4 or $5 million, is money that we would not have had available
Right, because you didn't
coming in
fill the
future
spots.
years. So
You
I just
weren't
wanted,
able to fill the spots.
because I appreciate that sentiment too, and I think there's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, I don't know if you want to address this. Do we have to, in the years that we do well financially, do we have to assess every mill?
For the millage, for the debt millage?
For the debt millage.
Tony, you want to try that first?
Yeah, sure. No, I did speak with bond counsel on that, and we do have the opportunity to pay out of operating and not levy in any given year if we did have additional funding such that it wasn't necessary in that given year to pay out of general.
Okay, and I don't know if that helps Mark.
Thanks.
Well, and to tag on to Chief's comment, when I came on the board in 2020, it was COVID, and we were short-staffed, we were short police, we were short fire, we were short the cable station. The director left, and we had no director for a while. There were so many labor issues that now we're pretty much fulfilled. We've added an HR director that we never had before. We have different levels of our day-to-day costs now. So that's partly how we were able to, and Michael's been a wonderful treasurer, I would say. So, you know,
I'm
watching.
not paying her to say that.
Watching, no, he's not.
No, you are. She gets paid per meeting.
Well,
You know, watching the bottom line and making smart investments. But things were very different coming out of COVID when I came on the board, and yeah, I kept hearing there's a surplus, and we saved it. And I'm glad we did.
I'll just say my final remarks, and that is that, you know, we are trustees, not delegates, and the distinction there is that we are put in this position to analyze all of the available information, a lot of information that wouldn't necessarily be available to, you know, general taxpayers or residents, and we are charged as fiduciaries to do what's in the best long-term interest of the township. And I think that everybody here on the board is doing what they think is in the best long-term interest of the township, and we don't all agree, but I think what's important is that whichever way this vote comes out, that we know that we're gonna support this millage because we need it to pass because we need it for the police department and the fire department. And so, you know, I will of course support whatever the board decides. And I've made my case as to why I think that my proposal is in the best long-term interest financially of the township. And I'll leave that to the rest of you to decide.
So Mike, I'm curious, you have a final wrap-up statement?
Yeah, I think Michael just hit it on the head. He just said it's important to do police and fire. That's number one. And that's the best chance of getting passed. Whether we feel differently about a town hall or not, we have to vote on what we feel the voters, our residents would support. And after they see this conversation and the press puts out in the paper, I think we need to move forward with just the police station and the fire station.
Those are needs, and those are huge, huge asks as well. And one of the things I know I've wrestled with is, you know, if we go for the Michael's plan, the all-encompassing, I mean, I love the plan and the park, and it seems like it checks a lot of boxes. But if the voters don't agree, then the next election isn't for, clerk, 2 years? Year and a half, 2 years. And if we have to hold a
Well, it's
separate
scheduled.
special, right.
Scheduled, we know now. There could be
Scheduled.
other things that could come on
But
next
if
year.
we have to
We have to
hold
pay
a
for it.
separate
Correct.
scheduled election because we decide next February, you know, we have to go at this again and we have to try it again. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's probably about $100,000 for us to run a separate election, and that's $100,000 that we will never see again. So again, we want to be as thoughtful and as directed in what, you know, what's in the best interest and what's the most important that we need.
I just want to clarify to make sure there's no misunderstandings. I am fully in support of my proposal. That's what I'll be voting for. I will not vote for the other proposal. My point was that we want, as a board, once the vote is taken, to make sure that we, you know, do what we can to, you know, get this over the finish line. And, you know, I think our residents are sophisticated and smart enough to understand that the proposal, at least that I'm presenting, is, you know, what we feel as trustees is in the best long-term interest of the township, from not having to operate two buildings. So that's my final thought.
I think some of us have said we would support either proposal, and some people are maybe just one proposal. So, Michael, would you support both proposals if that's the way the board goes?
I would support, if the board goes in that direction, I of course would support it tomorrow because we need to get something passed. However, I will not support it tonight.
And Supervisor McCready?
Yeah, I think that we have to be fiduciary responsible to the residents. I believe the proposal I put out there is the best fiduciary conservative approach for our residents, while delivering them the best-in-class service with public safety and fire.
So you're going to be voting for your proposal tonight.
That's correct.
And tomorrow, the board votes for the other proposal?
Mm-hmm.
You'll be,
I think I've already spoken out against the town hall, so I think I've spoken and they've heard me.
well, the board gets to make that decision ultimately where we're going, and I'll support whatever the board decides to.
I'm with you, Martin. Whichever decision the board makes this evening, tomorrow I'll be supporting.
Right, I mean, I could support either proposal, but a new police facility and a new fire station are the critical needs. And so I kind of keep that in the forefront, but I could support either proposal. So I don't know how
So
taking multiple votes here, or?
Supervisor McCready, would you like one side to make their motion and see if we get more than 4 and then go from there? Or how would you like to do this since you ran the meeting, sir?
Well, it looks like.
It's pretty split.
It's pretty split right now.
Which is good. That means that you guys made great arguments.
Well,
Tony, all we need, whoever gets 4 votes, right?
That's exactly
That's
right.
it.
But do we do 2 different votes, or just?
Well, I think the first vote that gets 4 would win.
First that gets 4, that's all we need.
So if we came out with a
That's it.
tie, then we'd have to figure out a way to
Right.
split. And that's,
There's no tie.
if so, depending on how Trustee Antocli has stated, not supporting debt, I don't want to speak for you, but he has said that, so he hasn't publicly said which way he's going, so I'll make the motion and then we can go from there. I would
Okay.
like, if you're okay with that, Supervisor
yeah,
McCready?
go ahead, Chris.
So I would like to make a motion that we bond for the 60 million for the comprehensive plan for Town Hall and the police department and fire station.
And is that for the resolution as proposed?
As proposed from Treasurer Schostak.
I'll second.
Okay, so a proposal by Chris and support by Mark, is that correct?
Correct.
Any further comments? Now let's do roll call votes, Martin.
Okay, Mr. Antocli,
No.
just a quick point of order. Our attorney, can you second a motion and vote no?
You can, it's unusual, but you can.
Okay. Mr. Kalinsky,
I'll vote yes.
Mr. Barnett,
No. No.
Ms. Murray,
Go the other direction. I'm really torn. I guess I'm going to say no.
Mr. Schostak,
Yes.
and let's see, so we've got Barnett a no, our Antocli a no, our Murray a no, Kalinsky, yes, Schostak, yes. I'm a yes.
I'm a no.
Noes carry that 4-3.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll make a motion supporting Supervisor McCready's bond proposal as presented in the resolution.
Okay, support by Neil, or proposed by Neil, support. Do we have support? Can I support it?
Support?
Yes? you can
Support by, thank you, Val, support by Val. Do the roll call vote, or any comments before we take a vote?
So just to confirm, you're going to still do a 20-year 20-year bond on yours?
Correct.
Is that so that, because just the lowest interest is the goal?
That's the quickest way to pay it off.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Antocli,
No.
Mr. Kalinsky,
No.
Mr. Barnett?
Yes.
Ms. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Schostak?
No.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Mr. Supervisor? It's a yes?
Yes.
So that's 4 yeses and 3 nos, right?
Yes.
Congratulations.
And the motion
Thank you.
passes.
We're going to be having a public safety building, police station. This is great.
That is great. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys, great conversation.
Great conversation.
And then I want to thank the board for being professional throughout this. This was great.
It was.
Absolutely.
Great
Right.
conversation, and the fact that we think differently
Right.
just gets us the best option and outcome for our residents. So thank you all.
Yeah, okay.
Agreed.
All right, so item number, we'll go 4A. Mark, approve the board minutes from July 27, 2026.
Yes, there's a comment that all questions were answered
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I know.
in the board minutes. There was a comment on my questions regarding OPEB, that individuals did not understand what I was talking about, so I printed out a couple documents from the Township website. The first is the report that goes to Treasury. You'll notice on line item 7, there's a $8,787,000 actuarially calculated payment.
Mark, can you hang on a quick second? I just got the page in front of me, so.
Okay.
Am I starting again?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
on line item 7, there's a ADC calculation, an actuarially determined contribution calculation,
I see it now.
Yep.
okay? The next page, where the calculations come from the Milliman report. So what you'll see here is the fire, police, and town are all positive ADCs, while cable, building inspection, and sewer are negative. So when I make the comments on the negative requirement to make contributions, that's where I'm getting the information from, and this is on our township website. You'll notice that the full payment, if you look at fire, police, and town only, it's about 9.1 million. Yet what's on the actuary includes the negative payments from cable, water and sewer, and building inspection. So that's something I continually bring up. You'll also notice that the benefit payments are cash outflows for all 6 funds or 6 groups. And even though cash is going out of cable, studio, building inspection, and water and sewer, they still have a negative ADC. So that's on our township website. So a lot of comments were made. Don't know where my reference point is. This is where it is. The next one is also from the same report, and this looks at what happened in the past. You'll notice that water and sewer, the benefit payments are a lot less than the transfers in. So those are the contributions. And I keep asking, when were the contributions approved above the benefit payments for water and sewer? I have not gotten an answer to that, but they're clearly here highlighted. You'll also notice that the public safety and town portion of the funds, those items were approved above benefit payouts. So, by the board, and even Mr. Tice has been saying it. So, again, this goes back to when were those payments approved?
I think your point is that these are the points you made before, and I believe there were answers provided. You didn't like the answers, but there were answers provided.
No, there
at the
was,
meeting.
no one ever told me when those contributions from water and sewer were approved, because the board approved a plan in 2019, and it required the benefit payments to go in. Now, the benefits, the contributions above that for water and sewer were never approved by the board. We even talked about it. You can't, and this is in the documents from Millman, and I've asked for that, and that has not been provided. If the township, I also received a call from Department of Treasury.
Is that for the minutes, though?
Well,
Yeah.
yes, it is, because items related to the phone call from Treasury included the quarterly reports. All funds have to be reported, not the 4 major funds. So that's, Treasury said that that was improper. Treasury also stated,
No, hang on, we're talking about our minutes, right?
Yes.
yes, all
Just
questions
stick-
answered. I had a
stick it to the minutes.
28-page document
Yeah,
with
we saw-
40
we all read
items
it.
listed.
Yeah, we all read it.
So, and all those questions weren't answered. I asked about,
All the questions that were raised were discussed and responded to.
and
And that's,
Yeah,
I
by
stand
the
by
board and by the
minutes.
UHY.
I
stating
make a
that
motion to
it
approve.
happened a long time ago, so
Approve the
there's no
minutes.
reason to look at it, I don't believe is an answer. If
Yeah.
you believe that is,
Support.
Yeah, we do, okay.
All in favor?
So, okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes and support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
nay.
Nay, 6-1, thank you. And then, Mark, you said D, approve payroll and vouchers?
Yes, I don't agree, I don't believe it's reasonable to charge water and sewer for central services fees, rent, and retain the investment income that's generated on their principal. I believe it should be moved in, that would change the budget, therefore I'm voting no.
Okay,
Make a
just be,
motion, we
I mean,
approve.
the
Oh,
board,
can I make one
Yeah.
statement, if you don't mind?
yeah.
But I don't feel that, as we talk about like politics, I don't feel that we should hold employees' pay and benefits hostage. Because I have,
Or our vendors.
just because I have a disagreement with any board member or a policy.
Well, the board is down, only one person is. So as I said, I make a motion, we approve.
And I support.
Support, motion by Neil, support by Chris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Passes 6-1. And move for adjournment. All
Support.
in favor?
Aye.
Val?
Adjourned.
Adjourn. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.